covered out a bunch of stuff that I wanted to cover. I don't know how much I'm going to go through right now, but it's like 4 pages of junk. It should be pretty much everything I know, however useful that is. First of all, we'll talk about the, I guess, musical alphabet. Just in case you don't know, I figured you would, but E, A, D, G, B, E. And you go the other way, it's E, B, G, D, A, H. In center tuning. As you might notice, I've not tried to categorize this in a way where it's like building blocks where we start at the easiest and go up. It's more like, here's everything I want to say. And it's just in some order, and I make sure I cover everything I can think of to talk about. So every single letter, A through G inclusive, has a sharp or a flat, except for E, which goes straight to F, and B, which goes to C. So I'm going to start on A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, then F sharp, G, and yeah, G sharp, back to A. So, yeah. And if you do it backwards, you can say flat. It's like C, C flat would be B, and E or F flat would be E. Sharp means you play one note higher. So if I give you like a sharp, maybe start on A, one note higher. So if I say flat, it's one note less. In case you didn't know that. Natural just means it's the note itself. There's no alteration to it. That's used because scales sometimes have like sharps and flats in them, and if you play the note natural, you're getting rid of that sharp that's in there. So like if I do A major, for example, that would be, let's see, G, D, A. That's 3 sharps in it. So F, C, and G are sharp. So if I gave you, where's F in it? C, D, E, F. That F should be sharp. It is, see? So if I say it's an F natural in there, it'd be. So that's pretty much C natural. Alright, so you play chromatically, it means to play basically every note. Alright. With scales, usually you skip some notes. So like if I'm playing pentatonic, like I skip 2 notes there, which is skip 1 right there. So. Whatever, So anyway, the most common scale you end up encountering is a major scale. Most stuff in music's based on that. And it has a pattern. You take your root note, and you do whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So whole step is 2 notes away, so that'd be a half step. There's a whole step. So whole root, whole, whole, half, and whole, 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 half. So there you go. And you can play it up this way instead of this way. Versus right. The major scale I was talking about. If you start that on the 6th note, and we keep going up the octave, we get minor. So we could also go back 3 notes. So there it is. So in general, when you have a scale, you can start on any note of the scale, and that gives you a mode. So you start on the first note of the major scale, they call it the Ionian mode. You start on the second note, it would be the Dorian mode. So you start on the next note, it would be Phrygian, and Lydian. I wouldn't recommend playing it that way though, where you're starting each note like this. So starting on these points, I would actually move it this way. So like. Back to first note again. So you have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian. You have Aeolian, Locrian, and then Ionian again. If you're starting those notes to play the scale. And you can kind of do that even with weird scales, like you're playing the harmonic minor. It's the same as playing the minor scale. I think I'll stick in the key of A major for now. So if I'm playing the relative minor, so like remember starting on the 6th note, F sharp there, F sharp minor. That's called the relative minor because you play it in the same key of A major, right? So for an A major, minor scale is the 6th note, which is the F sharp, which is then the relative minor of that key, the alien mode of that key. Okay, so now if you play a harmonic minor, it's basically just a minor scale, except you raise, it's got a sharp 7th. You could also do the same kind of thing where you can make modes of that. So we have for some reason people in music theory give them weird names. The way I think about it is like instead of like alien sharp 7 and then whatever the locating would be called with some weird name, I just think of it as locating sharp 6. And then the next one's going to be sharp 5, so Ionian sharp 5. Because that sharp 5 in there, if you take a 5th, you get a chord. Root 3rd sharp 5th gives you augmented. That's kind of cool. You can get an augmented chord from harmonic minor. I'm getting off track here. But you can follow that same pattern. Once you know the shapes of these different like modes, you can just follow it and say, okay, at sharp 7, then sharp 6, then sharp 5, sharp 4 for Dorian. Where we're in. This is the Dorian mode here. So. But instead we have sharp 4. So now we go to the next one. It would be Phrygian. But because of the sharp 3rd, it's called Phrygian dominant. Makes sense because it's Phrygian mode, right? But if you play a dominant 7th chord out of it, because you make chords by stacking every other note. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7. That's how you get that dominant sound there. You have leading sharp 2. Sharp 1, that's what I'm going to call it, but I'm sure someone's going to have a better name for it. And they're back to alien. Sharp 7, so harmonic minor. So if you have a chord progression, like say you're playing something like chords in Pseudo Alabama. All those chords exist in key. So if you make chords by playing every other note, and you played starting in like, let's see, I guess it'd be D7. So we're in G major, I guess, or D mixolydian. So you have right here C major. So D. Yeah, D, C, G. So we're on the 5th, the root, I guess that'd be the 4th. D, C, and then go to G major, it's just that, okay, so D mixolydian, and it would be C Lydian. Anyway, it fits in that scale, so I start on the 4th note. Get that Lydian mode. And also playing over the note. Oops. Alright. So get that C major. I'm doing C7 there, but C major is another. But anyway, get the C. You can also get the D there. So we can mix Lydian mode. Which would actually make a dominant 7th. Yeah. And over here, G major. play a song, like I said, that has all chords that belong to one key, you can take all the chords out of the notes in this scale, and it's considered diatonic. So, kind of weird to explain that, but if you imagine I had to make a chord like, there's something that never works. Like, say I have G major in it, and I also have G sharp major. There's no major scale that has both those chords in it. So like a borrowed chord or whatever. Not super important though. So if I ever say tonic or root note, I'm just talking about like the first note of the scale. If I say I'm in A major, tonic or root is just that A note. You might say something different if like I'm playing A mixolydian. I guess we need a D major. Like I said, dominant 7th chord would be built off the 5th degree of the scale, mixolydian note. So we go 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our root. 8 is 1. There's only 7 notes in the scale. So you have like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and you're back to C. So 8 is 1. That's also when you see chord names that have like something 9 in it. 9 is just the second, because you've already got past the 8th. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. There's the octave of the note. Yeah, so I already mentioned chords are constructed with every note of the scale. So you can start on like the Lydian mode and use every other note. You can start on the mixed Lydian mode and use every other note. If you start on Ionian, you're going to get a major. Right? Major 7. If you start on Dorian, you'll get a minor 7. Start on Phrygian, it's a minor 7. Start on Lydian, you'll get a minor, major 7. Next Lydian will give you dominant 7th. Aeolian will give you a minor 7th again. This thing has bad intonation, sorry about that. When you play Locrian, every other note, you're going to get minor 7 flat 5 or a half diminished chord. There's your kind of diminished sound, right? Stacking minor 3s. Anyway, so you can do that with any scale or any mode of the scale. Just like I was saying with like harmonic minor. Gives you that minor major 7th chord. It's got a major 7th. It also has the minor 3rd. That's one thing I should talk about too, is all of the intervals. So the intervals we have are unison, just the same note twice. Then you have like minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd. We have perfect 4th. We have a sharp 4 or a flat 5. We have the 5th. We have a minor 6th, a major 6th, minor 7th, major 7th. We have an octave. And you should probably practice playing different fingering for these intervals. Like obviously these ones are all pretty easy to do in one string. I'd say once you get to like the major 3rd, that's probably better. You can also do minor 3rd this way. Right? You want those intervals to actually be played as like a chord together. You have to do stuff like that. But typically, if you're playing an interval up close, it's going to be like a scale kind of thing. So, anyway, yeah. If you maybe want to play a bunch of like stacked major 3rds, it's like, okay, well, I can do this. Then where's the next one? It's like, right? That's kind of awkward to find it that way. I would just go, you can also do a major 3rd this way. So, do it again. Kind of augmented sound. Yeah. So you do that, or so another thing I wrote down here to talk about was if you have a relative note from some other note, like I have this note plus this note, I look at that shape, and that shape will kind of make the same interval no matter where I move it in the neck. So it'll also be the same on different strings, except when you get to the B string, then you have to move things up more because the B string's tuned different than the rest. So instead of it's right, I'm kind of tune here. Talk about octaves too. So if I'm playing an octave, you can get the octave by playing 12 notes higher. So open E, here's 12th fret, octave, right? 24th fret, octave. You can also do it by doing like a power chord shape, where you have the root and fifth. That's all that is. But skip a string. So that'll work. Remember the B string though, if you have a string plus a B string, you have to add a note to it. So same thing as you cross the B string. So here in G and the high E, I have to add an extra fret to it. Because the high E is tuned to the B. Right? So anyway, that's one way to do it. The other way to do it too is like you imagine the power chord upside down and then go back a note and then skip 2 strings. So, and then the B comes up next, so and then yep, because you're going over the B. It's useful to know. So you can use both methods here. So like, so I'm doing this like power chord plus skip a string, and then skip a string plus add a note. Or you could also go back this way. So, right. Right, so earlier I talked about like a musical alphabet kind of thing where you have like all the notes having sharps or flats except for you go from E directly to F and B to C. Okay, so the cool thing about that too is if you have a chord, like say I have a D chord, if you move this down or up, it'll also go through the alphabet. So instead of being called D, it'll be D sharp. But keep in mind, it has an open string in it, so you have to move the open string out too. And then all these go up. So now it's a D sharp major chord. And up here it would be E major, then F, because E doesn't have the sharp. And then there's F sharp, G, right? Whatever. So you can do that. You can also do that with scales. So if you know the A major scale, you can move it back, now you have E flat major. And then G major. And that's kind of cool because it means you can take all the mode shapes you know, like you can apply it by moving it down or up. Let's move it up to like A sharp major, I'll call it, and people won't like that. It's like, no, it's B flat major. I don't care about the theory stuff at all. Okay, so move the whole thing up, same shape. Yeah. So you can move it up, and any pattern works like that, any chord works like that, any scalar mode works like that. You just name it the next thing in the scale if you move the whole pattern over. You can also use that to move a song to a different key. Like say I have that same chord progression. That's basically just the 5 of the key, Mixolydian, and then it was the 4 and then 1. So I guess D, C. But if I move to a different key, let's say instead of D I do an E, so it'd be right. Now it's in I guess A major instead of G major. So you can do that to transpose things. Just change the key of the song's in. So one thing I wrote in there was about pick selection. I prefer a thicker pick. I'm using 88 millimeters. The reason for that is if you pick with a thinner pick, it likes to flop back and forth as you're picking. So if you pick quickly, you have more floppy motion going on. So if you have a thicker pick, there's just less floppy motion, it's easier to control. The other thing that helps is you angle the pick, and you use as thin amount of the pick as possible. So you have it like this far out, it's going to flop around more because it has more leeway, but if you're holding it up closer to the tip, you can't bend as much. Also, if you're holding it forward at an angle, it won't bend as much. Like you can imagine if you're standing like a soda can, like lengthwise instead of like on its side where it's round. If you stand on the side, it's going to crush. If you stand on the lengthwise part, there's better structural integrity in that direction. Same thing with a pick, where you're kind of like holding it edgewise, but there's more meat to the pick instead of holding it this way. So I guess how do I word this? Going this way, maybe I'd say it's parallel. Instead, you want it to be between parallel and perpendicular. It's going to have the most. I guess if you did it completely perpendicular, it'd have the best integrity, wouldn't it? But you can't really play like this too well, so I'd say just angle it like 45 degree angle. Better tone that way too. I used to hold the pick kind of like this, you know. And that's kind of still useful sometimes when you're string skipping. I find it harder to do when you're holding a pick like this. It makes sense to hop around more. There's more like hand motion. I wouldn't do like this for that. But for scale stuff, for sweeping, I think it's better to hold the pick closer like this. more important as a tone. You want it to sound good more than have it be easy to play. Make sure I didn't skip anything on this paper that I made. So I talked about the musical notes, the intervals, like just the same note, minor second, major second, all that stuff. Major scale, the pattern for it, whole half, from the root. Minor versus major being the same thing, starting a different note. Talked about modes. Some of these diatonic, it's all in the same key. You can construct chords by stacking every other note. Okay, so one thing I didn't mention is when people are naming chords, and someone's gonna disagree with this probably, but this is just like functional guitarist knowledge, not really music theorist knowledge. When people are naming chords, they're usually relative to like some like major scale. That's how I kind of think about it, because if someone takes a minor chord, like it has the minor third in it, which comes from the minor scale, right? You might think, okay, well, it's a minor chord because it comes from the minor scale and you're stacking every note of the scale. That would work, but then if you say minor sixth, what that actually means is minor with a major sixth in it. Instead of this, you just say minor flat six or something to have that third in there, which is kind of stupid. At that point, I think we should just like name it after the scale it comes from, and I'd call it like a Dorian sixth, because I mean, Dorian mode has that major sixth in it. And I can tell you too, maybe this is just a quick thing to add. When you're playing Ionian, you can say that's your major scale. When you play Dorian, it's basically your minor scale with a raised sixth, right, sharp sixth. And when you play Phrygian, it's got a flat second, it's a minor flat second. So instead of right, and then Lydian is like major with a sharp four. And then Mixolydian is major with a flat seven. It's got minor seventh in it. Right, and then red Aeolian, which is your minor mode. And we have Locrian, which is it's like minor with both flat second and flat five. So. Okay, so glad I looked back there and covered that. Anything else I wanted to talk about here? Right, so I think thinner picks are kind of better for tones sometimes, and they're better for doing like a lot of fast chord stuff. So I'm going like a. That's kind of hard to do with a thicker pick. The pick wants to play out your hand more. What else? Yeah, when I'm using a thinner pick, I'll use like 0.72 millimeters. Just use whatever's comfortable to you. I prefer an nylon pick because it takes a long time for them to shred. If you use a plastic pick, they get grooves in them within like an hour of playing. So I do not like plastic picks at all. Some people use metal ones, but it's kind of dangerous to the right player, you know. Scratch up your guitar. Right, so the other thing too, I wrote about tapping in here and different picking techniques. Some people will actually put like a hairband on the guitar up here to deaden the strings while they're doing this, because like I'm not gonna deaden the strings with my palm at all right now. You can hear those strings all ringing out. It's building in volume too. If I do this, they're quieter, right? Right. So I've seen people put hairbands up here to do that. Do whatever works for you, I guess. I'm not a huge tapper. Yeah, the other thing too I wrote is when you're doing tapping stuff, I used to use the side of my pick. And I wouldn't use the side that I pick with over here. I'd turn it upside down like this. And the reason for that is because tapping actually has a string cut into the pick, because it's nylon or plastic, whatever you're going to use. And this is metal here, so the metal's going to make grooves in the pick and kill your picks. And for a long time I didn't realize why I was killing my pick so fast, and that was one of the reasons. But the main reason I was doing that for tapping was because tapping kind of shreds your fingers after a while. So I didn't like this technique. I'd always just kind of do that kind of thing, use the pick instead. And I could play longer without having any pain in my fingers. What else? Right, so hammer-ons and pull-offs. Hammer-on's easy, just... I say that and I hit the wrong string. I have like numbness in my hands these days, so I have an excuse. But the pull-off part, you have to actually pull off. You can't just off. I mean, it's kind of working with amplification, but if I did it on an acoustic guitar, you wouldn't hear anything. What you want to do is pull off. You actually, like you're picking the note with your finger, like I'm doing. See that? So a good way to practice that might just be to keep your a couple fingers on the fretboard, and then just pick with your finger. Try that. So I stuck with the pinky. that's something to keep in mind. If you want a good tone, you need to actually pick with your finger when you're pulling off. You can't just hear the difference versus. So you need to actually do that. You can't just pull it off. You can't just lift your finger up. You have to actually pluck off of it. What else? Oh, something I should have started with, but we've already talked about this. How to tune, right? Now that's kind of difficult to show on here because I have fine tuning, but there's essentially 3 ways that I know of to tune. There's probably as many as you want. The way I learned first was the one I showed you, was just to use the 5th fret of the low E string with the open A string. And then you do the same thing with the 5th fret of the A and the open D, and the 5th fret of the D and the open G. G string, we do the 4th fret of the G string in the open D. Okay, then you do the 5th fret of the B in the open E string. Now, another thing you could do is you use the 7th fret, so like open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You just kind of hover over the string to a harmonic. You don't want to push down. You want to hover over the string. You let your flesh kind of stop the string from moving, and you get that. And you can do that with the B, and then with the high E. So 7th fret of the low E string with the B on the 12th fret. And you can also do the 7th fret of the A string with the 12th fret of the high E string, and play harmonics there, and tune that way. And then for those strings, you would do the 12th fret of the low E, and the 7th fret of the A, and do the same thing here, 12 and 7 on the A and D, 12 on the D, and 7 on the G. So I did that for a long time. That was a pretty good way to tune, I think. The other thing you could do, kind of like a violin, just play these 2 strings together. It's a perfect 4th interval. You hear what that sounds like you can recognize like major 2nd. You can hear it like major, minor. If you do ear training and you can recognize certain intervals, then it might be easy enough for you to tune like that, that's what I'm doing. Like, it's not something that I thought about when I was doing it. It's just certain chords I would play. I could tell notes right to tune, and I kind of like tune in and out with the chords. And eventually, I found out it was better to do it with open strings. And this method just seems to work better on most guitars that I play. It's my default now. I'll basically just get my A in tune, like. It's actually easier to use string fork if you have distortion. Hope that doesn't do well. So that's what I tune with now. That might be a little hard. I would recommend maybe looking online for ear training apps or something. There's one I used to use where I could just like pick random intervals it would play, and usually it was just all in one octave, like right. But sometimes you could also make it skip an octave, like, which I find pretty hard to do. I guess that'd be the 4th. I can't hear that. I'm not very good at that. Anyway, if you want to use that method, you feel like it's works for you, then it's just two opens. See E and A and D, and then D and G, and then I do. Okay, and then we have the open G and the third part of the B, which is like it's a perfect fifth interval. And then we have the open B and E. Well, one thing I'll say that I didn't write down is you can get natural harmonics. Hit certain parts on the guitar. So let's see. That'll be the third fret, third, fourth, seventh, and 12th. And if you go up higher, they kind of repeat, right? So third, fourth, seventh, and 12th. The other thing too is artificial harmonics. So you can do these anywhere. The best way I can explain it is you pick the note and then stop it with the flesh of your thumb. If you just don't stop it, you get a note. But if you stop it with the flesh of your thumb, that works. If you notice, it gives a different sound depending on where I pick it. I used to be pretty particular about it. I'm going to put it back on distortion for a second. That's the right spot right there. I would try to get the exact spot to make the harmonic come out the most when I'm doing artificial harmonics. These days, I find I'm usually trying to go for more of a effect and like a specific sound and specific pitch. I mean, it probably sounds stupid, but it's more the effect you're going for, I think, than the particular pitch. That's what I should talk about too. If you stop the string instead of your thumb, you can also stop it with like your finger or pick whatever you want. 12 frets above where you were, so that'll also make your harmonic come out. It helps to wiggle the string back here too. Another thing you can do with harmonics is so what I'm doing there is I'm kind of like pointing at the note I want to hit, and the finger's barely touching the string at all. To the point that when I pluck it with my thumb, I'm kind of like making the string vibrate into my finger and lifting up with it. So you can do that with chord sounds. I'm not very good at that anymore, but I used to do that a bit. I had a couple songs that I use that technique. This is just opinion. Having a thicker string doesn't make you sound any better. It just makes it harder to play. Might be better for like an acoustic guitar, I think. But on an electric guitar, I feel like you're not really getting more tone from more string. It's just shredding your fingers more and making it harder to bend. Oh, harmonizing. Sequences, right? So one thing I wanted to show too, I know I said earlier that you can take any pattern and move it up. And like if I have a major pattern, like, in that scale, let's say I do just a triad. So I take that and I move it through the modes. Right? That's all in the same scale, but it's like a pattern starting on the next note of the scale. So it wasn't really easy thing I could do. How about I do, inside the major scale we have 1, 3, 4, 5, so it'd be 1, 3, 4, 5. And if I were to do the same thing in the next mode, so 1, 3, 4, 5, it'd be Dorian now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And maybe could move it around in the same scale shape too. So if you move everything up one, you just go to the next note. So 1 be 2, 4, 4, 5, maybe 5, 6. I guess that makes sense. It is. I just took one out. And it would just be. You could do it that way. You could do it this way. The point is, you can just take a pattern that you like. If it sounds cool to you, just move up the notes. So that's kind of a cool way to get a lot of mileage out of your licks. I've seen people like Paul Gilbert, he does this lick where he's just doing the first 6 notes in the mode. That'd be brilliant. And let's do that every note. It's pretty easy to do. Not exactly practice on it right now, but that's not too hard to get speed. What else? So sequences. See, I wrote some patterns to practice. So one of the patterns I wrote down was you do like 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3. Right? You just keep that pattern going up. Up, 2, down, 1, up, 2, down, 1. I probably shouldn't try to think about that. So you can do that with like chords obviously too. Or with scale order. I already showed that, but I would recommend when you're looking at all the different scale shapes for the major scale, do them 3 notes per string. You keep going 2 and out of notes. Do it all the way down with every mode. Every time you start on the next position of the low E string. No, that's really a thing of it. Anyway, I would definitely do that, and I would get used to making associations between these scales and the chords that they make. So if I do something like, I'll do A major again, which is relative to C Lydian. So if I do, have a loop for a second, and play the Lydian scale over it, or Lydian mode. Like you'll have that C right in, you'll have like an E7 in that case. I would focus on what makes the scale kind of unique, or the mode unique. Remember I told you like you have just ionians, just regular notes, and altered in the scale. And then like Dorian has a minor sharp 6. So maybe focus on that note when you're playing over it. Try to hit it a lot and go through it. Phrygian got that flat second. Lydian's got that sharp 4. Mixed Lydian, flat 7. Alien just normal notes. Locrian, flat 2 and flat 5. Okay. Anything else interesting here? Yeah, build chords from using every note. Do that every note. Try different scales like harmonic minor and see what chords you get. It's just good practice to visualize things. Because you'll see things like a dominant 7th chord. And you realize realize you can make that with mixolydian. Or you can make it with virgin dominant. So that's kind of cool. It gives you new ideas you wouldn't probably think about otherwise. Like, I'm not a huge music theory nerd, but sometimes you learn something in music theory, like, oh, that's cool, I can use this for whatever. And you come up with a new idea that you just didn't hear in your head. So yeah, I guess we could talk about some kind of chord quality stuff, right? Or like having a minor third, root third fifth, and you have a minor third, it makes it a minor chord. So like, the typical shape you'd see is like a guitar, which is like root, fifth, root again, octave, and then third. If I just played it like this, maybe considered first inversion because the third's in the bass, instead of playing the root note in the bottom, actually it'd be just that. That'd be inversion. Sorry. Root, and then, so not root, the third, fifth, root. So third, fifth, root. If I started the fifth in the bass, so fifth, root, third, that's second inversion. And you could do the same thing with like major seventh chords and stuff too. Like different inversions. They sound pretty cool sometimes. Get better chord voicing. Some of those things sound better if you have someone playing bass with you, and they're playing like a third in the bass or something. You can have them play something other than just the root of the chord. Like you're doing something like suddenly you have like a major seven sound. But if you have the octave below that, probably you're up. Whatever. Probably wouldn't pick this out, but something you could do. Right, so I guess I'll talk about some different chord types. We have like the major, have the major third, and the minor. But then there's also suspended chords, which have no third in them. Instead, it has like a second or a fourth. So you have instead of a third. So you get something like maybe like that would be a sus chord. So we have root, fifth, major seventh, and then we have the two, which is ninth, three the scale, second. So it's a sus2, major seven, sus2. I like that chord. There's also like a that'd be a sus4 right there. Fifth, octave, fourth. Sus chords, they kind of want to resolve. You have a sus4, it wants to go down. You have a sus2, it wants to go up. So it's a good sus2 shape. I guess that'd be sus2, wouldn't it? Root, fifth, octave, two, yeah, so. Right. Kind of wants to go up. And resolve. To feel finished. So if you stack minor thirds, you get a diminished arpeggio or diminished chord. You can play them all at once. That's the only thing different between an arpeggio and a chord. It's like an arpeggio you play the notes one at a time. A chord you don't play them once. Some people will be pedantic that can say that it's not a chord unless it's at least three notes. Otherwise, technically, it's an interval, right? So like minor second. Okay, minor third, major third. Okay, so I don't care about being pedantic. I care about getting the sound I can hear in my head. The sound I'm trying to copy because I hear it on an album or something. I want to figure out apart. So I already mentioned the properties of different modes. That's not too interesting. Okay, so I mentioned diminished. I mentioned augmented having a root major third and a sharp five. The dominant seventh has a major third but a minor seventh. So root, fifth, minor seven, major third. Talk about different kinds of picking techniques. I wrote down some. There's like alternate picking, chicken picking, hybrid picking, sweep picking, economy picking, and finger picking. You got things like legato and staccato and tapping. I already mentioned tapping, right? You just literally tap on the fretboard. Alternate picking, you just go back and forth. So up, down, or down, up, down, up, down. So that's alternate pick, right? You can see I was starting with a downstroke just then. I usually start with an upstroke for some reason. I don't know why it's more comfortable for me. On the way down, because no one actually gave me guitar lessons, I'm self-taught, I tend to economy pick on the way down, which is kind of interesting because that's not just up, down, over and again. It's actually like down, up, down, down. So down, up, down, down, up, down, down. It's like you're sweeping. So sweep picking is when you just only just move the pick down like that, right? So it saves you a lot of back and forth with your hand. It's good if you have a lot of notes that go in one direction, like an arpeggio. Although I just picked that. So I don't know. It's useful. I kind of don't like it in some ways because it's harder to accent notes. Like I'll do this. You can hear certain notes louder there. By going down, harmony picking, it's like that's hard. That's just me sucking me out of practice too. But if I alternate pick it, it's easier to do. But I also suck at alternate picking the way back, and I suck at economy picking the way up. So don't be like me. Actually, make a concerted effort to practice alternate picking both ways and economy picking both ways. I think it's too late for me. I don't have it anymore. And by the way, I was talking about moving stuff up a scale earlier. Like that's kind of the same idea. I did a sixth interval. What I mean is like 6 notes up in the scale. So 1 and 6, and then 2 and 7. Right? I could have done it this way too. Right? Yeah. I just happened to do this before I knew all the mode shapes, right? I practiced that a freaking ton. When I first learned scales, so I guess I could talk about economy picking a little bit more. I'll just say like, what you want to do is whatever direction you're going, you want to start with that direction. So if I'm going to go this way, I want to go with down strokes. I'm going down the string, so down, up, down, down. And that just repeats the whole way. On the way up, I want to start with an upstroke. So it's up, down, up, up, down, up, up. Alternate doesn't really matter if you start with an up or down. Maybe there's a particular lick that'll make one easier to do than the other. Starting with down there is hard for me. Starting with up there is easy for me. I don't really want to talk about sweep picking that much, but I find if you pick the opposite direction you want to sweep, and then sweep, it's easier, at least for me, to be consistent. If I just start going, it's kind of hard. I don't really feel like my hands are synchronized if I just go one direction the whole time. I find it's easier to start like the opposite direction and then go down. Or start down and go up. So, I always have like a pickup note, like, right? So maybe something you practice for that would be like, this would be an easy one. Right? That's not bad either. Let's try that. So like if you go down a minor third, go down to a minor third, then a minor third. So it's like 13, what would that be? 10, 12, 13. If I don't know, it's actually easier just to. So pick, pull off. So it's down, pull off, down, down, pull off. It's not that my nose being played. And then up, I sweep. And repeat. Hold the pick word there. Okay. So anyway, those are the ones I practice mostly. There is hard picking stuff like. Right. That's basically you have a pick, plus like you're using like with these two fingers to also pick stuff. Song. So legato is the way I look at guitars. You're basically just like pulling off and tapping on it, hammering on a bunch. Staccato. You do it real short. You let the note ring out. Just a note, whatever. Versus you make it short like that instead of staccato. The way you do it on guitar usually is you pick the note and then you drop your pick back down on it to stop the note or your palm. Right? That's really useful for distortion. Because if you let stuff just ring, it's kind of hard to hear stuff. It gets too crunchy. So probably one thing I should talk about, just technique-wise, for lift guitar, if you're doing distortion, keep your palm rested here all the time. If you have a floating bridge, you can't rest it on top of this, because it's kind of pull the note out of tune, right? It's like using that. So I actually have to do it up here with this guitar, just kind of above this bottom pickup. And that stops string noise. I'll do that same thing instead, but I'll think about it. So. Right? And I'll do it without resting my palm there. I'll try. Kind of noisy. Tone's way better. Okay, well, this one's a whole mess. So, bending strings. This is something I wish someone told me. I used to think you just bend the strings, bending a string sounds cool. Whatever, yeah, rock stuff. But there's actually a note you're targeting when you bend. And when I found that out, an embarrassingly long time into my guitar playing career, if I call that a hobby, probably better word. Really try to do is target a specific note in a scale. The best way I found to practice this is like take your favorite scale, it could be, let's say A major, and start with a note, and then pick a note you want to hit like this, the next note of the scale. See, I hit that. You can test yourself. Last step. So something to notice too, when you're bending, you can only bend the pitch up with your fingers. But you can pre-bend it. So say I want to do something like, I can go. unless you got new ones inside of last talk to you. But I'm not a huge Grammy guy. I find it usually pulls strings out of tune. You have to keep spending your time tuning. Maybe there's guitars that have better tuning pegs and fine tuning on it that don't have that issue, but that's always been a problem for me. I don't really want to talk too much about like different types of bends, like so you can bend a chord into tune, like basically you can bend a chord into tune, or you can bend like the next note of the scale, or you can bend like into a unison, like it's the same note, right? So that's a common one. So maybe I'll just like show those ones because you'll probably encounter them at some point. This could be anywhere you want. I'm just gonna do it over here. So from like E minor, I guess, it's basically going to be 7, 5, 5 on the G, B, and E. And you just bend this note up. You bring up a whole stack. And over here, same thing, bring up a whole stack. I like that one a lot too. And over. Right, you just poke the string and stop it. I showed that earlier. But it sounds easy to pull it off. That's what I want to do when I'm recording, not live. Alright, I think we're almost done with this.